Certainly has been a busy week on the news front, and top of the list is no doubt Eskom's stage 4 load shedding. Many that has left South Africans angry and frustrated. Now the PIC and the state capture inquiries have also had their fair share of revelations, and there's now a legal tussle between the public protector and the Minister of State Security. But let's get some insight on these and other issues that made headlines this past week. We're now joined in studio by political analyst Mathekga. Ralph, a very good morning to you and welcome to Morning Live.
Thanks for inviting me. Good morning to your viewers.
Your most interesting revelations the past week?
Well, I would say the tussle between the State Security Minister and the Public Protector, because this has got implications on the Office of the Public Protector. Remember, a while ago, while Advocate Madonsela was still the Public Protector, there was no question about the integrity of that office. But now if you look at what is happening there, how the factional battles within the ANC has actually infiltrated that office. Once that is done, once this tussle is done, the main casualty here is going to be the integrity of the office of the Public Protector. And I think that political leaders need to sit down, because this Public Protector, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, was actually appointed through Parliament. It was appointed through Parliament. That was where the ANC has a majority. So if the party feels that they don't want to cooperate in some of the investigations, if some within the party feel that they don't want to cooperate because they believe that she cannot be acting in the public interest, a decision has to be made whether they maintain her or whether they undertake measures to remove her. It cannot continue where the office is almost in a limbo, where I would say the character of the incumbent seems to be dominating, seems to be actually a decisive factor as to whether people cooperate with the office or not. This is how the factional battles within the ANC is actually undermining the integrity of the institution. It is very sad to see what is happening. She has opened a case against State Security Minister. State Security Minister had earlier opened a case against her. This is quite untenable. There need to be an executive intervention here as to what actually needs to be done.
You mentioned the issue of the integrity of the office. I mean, her defense is that she laid this counter charge over what she termed as interference in her office. Is she right, though?
Well, the reality is that as a matter of principle, the Office of the Public Protector always has access to information that is usually provided through whistleblowers. I mean, it has happened before that that has been the case. Even the spokesperson, Mathekga, did mention that the office usually get information through that way. So the question is it illegal for her to possess this the said contested intelligence, the report? And she has gone and tried to get it legally. And I think at issue here, if you look at this thing, maybe the issue is not the technicality here. Maybe the decision not to cooperate is based on the suspicion that she's not acting in the public interest, but she's acting in the interest of the few or a particular faction within the ANC. And what does that say about this institution? When she's gone, because her tenure will have to come to an end at some point, once she's gone, you are not going to regain the integrity of the institution by just flipping the switch. People might actually look at this as a precedent not to cooperate with the Public Protector. Yeah. So I think political leaders will have to make decision. Do they want her to continue, or do they aim to actually try to obstruct the office throughout? There are matters of principles here, and of course there's always the suspicion that she's a character that cannot be seen doing the right job. And if some within the ANC believe that, let me just put it this way, if the president believes that, then there is no reason to maintain her, because her continued tenure only undermines this institution. And when these internal battles are done, the integrity of the institution will be in shambles.
You know, Ralph, the document in contention relates to Executive Members' Ethics Act by the then Finance Minister and now the incumbent Public Enterprises Minister, Pravin Gordhan. She seems to be gunning after Gordhan.
You know what? Here is where South Africans are caught in between the factional battle. You and I think observers out there might try to think about this thing from the point of view of the principle. But there is always this suspicion that emerges that she cannot meet fair justice when it comes to Minister Pravin Gordhan. And for me, we are trying to qualify here about are her actions defensible in principle, but we are then looking at the person who is understood to be, a political target, that is Minister Pravin Gordhan. we are already in this conversation, and already this conversation itself undermines the integrity of this institution. And that is actually at the core of this thing, the factional battle within the ANC. It doesn't matter whether you agree with the perceived good guys or the perceived bad guys within the ANC. The reality is that the Office of the Public Protector is suffering. And I think South Africa, or maybe political leaders, have to make a decision. Do we maintain Mkhwebane, or do we find a way to get rid of her? People need to take a principled position here on this matter.
Yeah, and I suppose that the state security is a top secret issue. I mean, the rogue unit narrative was debunked by Judge Robert Nugent at the SARS inquiry, saying that, just to quote him, the rogue unit narrative was used as an excuse to purge senior SARS executive, as well as disband the tax agency's executive committee when former Commissioner Tom Moyane took over in 2014. Now, is it then a rumor that the public protector is still protecting the interests of former President Jacob Zuma?
It will come across as that, because the rogue unit report has actually been discredited. But also, when you look closely, does it mean there should not be any inquiry on what might have happened? I don't know. Maybe in that form, there are those who are still denying that. There are those who are maintaining that you cannot totally dismiss the entire rogue unit. I mean, from where I stand, and I've written about this before, that there might need to be a sober, non-partisan, non-factional type of inquiry regarding what has happened. But is that even possible? Because the water has been muddied already. It appears that you will never undertake any kind of inquiry in that direction, because that issue has been tainted by political factions or factional battles within the ANC. This is actually the core of this issue. Maybe if she's protecting former president, can we imagine any other maybe avenue, any other structure through which maybe a proper inquiry can be held, an inquiry that will certainly not pursue political goals as the suspicion has come about? These are issues of state integrity. These are issues of integrity of the institutions. You are also dealing with very sensitive information. So when you see institutions battling this thing in the public, in the manner that it is happening, it doesn't matter which side of the fence you stand. Sure. The reality is that the institutions are actually suffering, and something needs to be done about it.
Yeah, and okay, let's take a look at other news making headlines the past week. We've seen UDM leader Bantu Holomisa taking the stand at the PIC inquiry. He's saying that more resources are needed for this inquiry because the Justice Department delayed payments and the April 15 deadline has to be met. Your thoughts on this?
Look, I fully agree with General Bantu Holomisa on this one. I think that the PIC inquiry has not been taken seriously. And if you take into consideration the fact that when you're talking about the PIC, you're talking about the biggest fund manager on the continent. You're talking about billions. You're talking about people's pension, including, I mean, the public sector pension, including the staff in this very same public broadcaster. So for me, you have to take that thing very seriously. I don't think you are likely to come up with any meaningful report in April, as the deadline seems to be, unless otherwise you just want to be seen to have done something. The type of transactions that the PIC get involved in are very complex. You need skillful people to undertake this inquiry. You need to give more time. And in my view, actually, it should even get much more attention than even the state capture inquiry. But its nature is such that even in the public, I think people know, very few people know about the PIC inquiry than they know about the state capture inquiry. But if you look at the money, if you look at the money that is at stake at the PIC, clearly you need about a year, and you need to really invest on resources. You need to bring people who can be able to help you with evidence, people who are in the financial markets, people who know what it means to inflate a share from 15 cents to the perceived 43 rands. Those are complex, sophisticated transactions that need time to actually unearth. And how far back do you go? When you talk about the PIC, a lot of black economic empowerment deals have been funded through PIC money. How far back do you really go when it comes to unearthing wrongdoing or trying to understand what happened at the PIC? We are nowhere near that. If we rush to a report by the 15th of April, by the end of April, as it has been stated, we would have only been scratching on the surface about this. It's a much more complex entity than the attention it is receiving.
And speaking of unearthing wrongdoing, and the central figure in all of this is the former CEO, Dan Machilas. I mean, we've seen witnesses coming to the stand saying that his conduct in securing certain deals, particularly the biotechnology deal, has been unbearable. Now, the big question now is, I mean, so many people's pensions funds have been invested in the PIC. So to whose benefit is the PIC?
You know, the complexity of the PIC is that the type of corruption you get there is not what is going to come out as outright illegal. It's very complex. It's about what you do in the financial market. So it's about the ethics of it. And you're asking a very critical question, to whose benefit? I mean, the PIC has to invest to the benefit of those who have invested the pensions there. I have worked in the public service as well. And those that are still in the public service, that money need to be invested in a manner that it can bring returns. And here, it's about where the money has been invested. Has it been to that benefit, or has it been to the interest of the few? And I mean, if anyone has read Noseweek, I don't like mentioning publications because it excludes others, but if anyone has read Noseweek in the past 5 years, you will get to understand what might have happened at the PIC. The publication has been characterizing that, and I'm shocked. Why don't you call Martin Waltz to come and testify at the PIC? How can you have a proper inquiry at the PIC while you are not calling Martin Waltz, who has been a crusader actually on reporting on corruption at the PIC? The whole thing looks like just window dressing, and Mr. Machila's name keep coming out now and again as to what was the basis of the decisions that were made when it comes to investment. A lot of investment money was lost in properties and so forth. But call people who have been reporting on this. Give it time so that you get a sense as to what might have happened there.
Also, a startling revelation from the inquiry, questions have been raised into the fund manager's advisory fee payments to a firm, S&P, linked to former Finance Minister Nhlanhla son.
Exactly. I mean, when you go into the financial markets, when you go into these portfolios, certainly you are rating agencies, certainly that's why I'm saying the type of corruption you get there, it's not necessarily outright illegal, but it's about who stand to benefit out of that. The fees that are being paid to people for advising. But even more interestingly, it's not like people are advising on companies that tend to be blue chips, companies that ended performing exceptionally well. If you look at some of the decisions why we are having this PIC inquiry, is because some of the investment have been very unsound. The reason why maybe the PIC did not collapse is because you keep putting money, you as a public servant, each and every month. But the reality is that you are deferring a problem. It gets to a point where at times you are going to start seeing that the fund value is declining. So you need to involve people in the financial market. You need to involve people who understand these things in the banks. You need to actually even get some of the people from these rating agencies to come and say what did they think about certain decisions on some of investment. What was the basis on that? And people have to be brought to book to account on those decisions. You cannot do that in the manner that I see the commission trying to. Even the skill set at that level. You need serious fund managers to come. Some who will not have interest or vested interest in this inquiry, to come and air, you know, their views as to how do you actually make a decision to invest in a company? How do you identify potential? When is risk acceptable when it comes to investing the public funds?
All right, Ralph Mathekga, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
That was political analyst Ralph Mathekga. I mean, it certainly has been a very busy week on the political front. This is Morning Live. Thank you so much for watching.